Hey everybody, what's going on? It's Monday evening. That means it's time for a movie review. And today we're doing a double fucking feature.
Yeah.
We actually weren't like planning to, but we just watched both of these and I was like, well, if we saved one till next week, I probably won't remember enough about it to like talk about it. So we might as well. Oh, please don't do that. That's like very distracting.
Yeah.
Very distracting. But yeah, so we're gonna do two Hammer films. And these ones are not really in any particular order because we had been... Okay, so Tom had said that he wanted to watch the Christopher Lee Hammer Dracula movies.
Yeah, I had never really seen any of them. I saw two, but they didn't really make a big impression.
Right, like we saw the first one, Horror of Dracula, from 1958, which is just called Dracula in Britain, but it's called Horror of Dracula over here. And we did a review of that one, and we did AD 1972, Dracula AD 1972. Which
I remember liking that one.
Came out after this one.
Yeah.
After these two, because these two were still kind of period pieces. I was like Dracula AD 1972. That was like Hammer trying to, bring the vampire into the modern era. Because prior to that, they were all set, in the 19th century or early 20th century. So Sebastian says the torture chamber of Dr. Sadism. We will eventually get around to doing that one because I noticed that it was on. I think it's on Amazon Prime, like for free. I've seen it before, but it would be a good one to review, I think. But yeah, hey Sebastian, hey Tammy, hey Walton Estates, hello and good evening from Los Angeles, all the way across the country. That's pretty cool. But yeah, so we ended up watching, just randomly, Dracula Has Risen from the Grave, which is actually the fourth movie in the series, but only the third with Christopher Lee, which I'll explain in a minute, and Scars of Dracula, which is the sixth one.
Yeah.
Now, ironically, I didn't actually realize this when we were watching them. Dracula Has Risen from the Grave generally gets better reviews than Scars of Dracula.
I don't understand why.
Most reviewers, this is really weird. Most reviewers, and even on Rotten Tomatoes, like Scars of Dracula, Scars of Dracula, I can't talk, sorry, has like a 41% Rotten,
Yeah.
And I'm just kind of like, I'm going to go out on a limb, and maybe this is an unpopular horror opinion, I liked Scars of Dracula better.
Yeah, it's better.
I liked it better for maybe some of the reasons that people didn't, because it was just way gorier and way sleazier and way more mean-spirited. And I think that's probably why I enjoyed it more than
you had a lot more Dracula in it too. He was in it.
That too.
And he was doing cool shit.
Yeah, he was doing like really cruel, horrible shit, which I was kind of like, okay, I'm down.
Yeah. Punishing women and stuff, disobedience, punishing his servants, and you got it expanded on vampire lore and Dracula lore out of this. They're showing you new stuff you hadn't seen.
Yeah, exactly.
What does Dracula do?
Yeah, and I mean, I'll get into like a little bit, but like I'm not going to go into an exhaustive history behind it, but there is kind of some interesting stuff about why this movie ended up the way it did and stuff like that. Oh, Tammy says, love the new skeleton picture in the background. Yeah, we do have to bring this up. Our lovely friend of the show, Sophie, who has stayed with us many times, sent us that for a wedding present. She had that custom made. I don't know if you can see the bottom. Thank you very much, Walton Estates. That's very nice of you.
Thanks.
Thank you. But it says established 2023 at the bottom. So she sent us that as a wedding present, which I thought was like super cool. She didn't tell us what it was. She just said, I'm sending you guys something, so like look out for it. Yeah, and so we got it yesterday.
You can change the color. It's got a bunch of effects and everything, but the camera actually prefers this particular color. And,
you can see it the best.
Yeah, and if I start pulsing it, it'll fuck up the focus on the camera.
Yeah, it keeps the camera keeps going out of focus because we like it to change colors. It looks really cool, but then when we were doing that, like the camera kept going, no. I don't
know if it'll do it with us in the frame, but
I'm sure it will.
It will. Okay. I could always test it and try it out.
Yeah.
Where's that damn remote?
It's right there right there behind my boobs.
Yeah,
that's where. Tammy says Sophie is a doll. She is. Sophie is awesome. We love her. Hopefully she can come visit us again sometime.
Yeah,
see?
Try, go.
Okay, see that? Yep. Oh, yep. And the camera went.
Did it?
Yep, it did it again. It's like I can't handle it.
That's funny.
It's too much motion. But yeah, we did decide that the blue was like stood out the most.
Yeah, I see it. Yeah, see.
Yeah, you see what it's doing?
Yeah.
You see what it's doing?
Yeah.
The camera just does not like that whatsoever. And well, because it doesn't help because it's like right in the center of the frame.
Yeah.
So we just decided to leave it like on the solid color. Well, until Tom started fucking with it.
I'll turn it on. Yeah.
And it's on two different circuits.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You need 2 plugs.
You did it like on a fade deal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Still gonna be doing it. Every
Yeah. We need like a solid, like we had it before.
Yeah.
Before you
It immediately goes
interfered. Before you interfered with it. He's like, help. No, I don't know.
Okay, just go on with the show.
No, I don't know how it works. All right. So the first one we watched, Dracula is Risen from the Grave. So this one, like I said, this is the 4th one. So first one was Horror of Dracula or just Dracula in the UK, which was, the introduction of Christopher Lee as Dracula, of course. So that came out in 1958. And then I wanted to watch Dracula Prince of Darkness, which I think is actually the 3rd one. The second one is Brides of Dracula, which actually is available on Amazon Prime, but Christopher Lee isn't in that one. The next one that Christopher Lee is in is the 3rd one, which is Prince of Darkness. Now, for whatever reason, I could not fucking find Dracula Prince of Darkness anywhere. Like, it wasn't streaming anywhere. Nobody had put it up for free on YouTube or nothing. Maybe somebody else can find it, but I was kind of looking around and I couldn't find it. So I said, well, we'll just go to the 4th one, because that was available to rent for like $3 or something like that. So we decided to watch that one. So this one, I feel like... Now, okay, a lot of the Hammer movies, even though they're known for being like, bloody and boobalicious and everything like that, this one had some cleavage, no naked boobies.
Yeah.
It wasn't super bloody. I kind of feel like this one was a little bit restrained.
I thought it was tame.
For a Hammer movie.
Yeah.
And also, I didn't love, even though, Christopher Lee had some lines and stuff in it, he doesn't really... He's not in it a lot.
No, he doesn't say much and he doesn't do much.
And I think that was kind of a criticism that a lot of people had of all of the later Christopher Lee Hammer Dracula movies, is that, well, Dracula is kind of like sidelined in his own story. Like, we want more Dracula, goddammit. Like, we don't want these stupid young hippies or whatever the fuck. Like, these young people in it that are kind of boring. It's like, we want to see Dracula, like, tearing shit up, you know what I mean?
Yeah, he's not really used as a character in this movie. It's more
not
like,
a lot.
More like
not
a prop.
Yeah.
It's driving the plot, but then when you see him, he's just standing there. He could have been a cutout.
Yeah.
And he doesn't do a whole lot.
Which is a shame.
Yeah. He'll have like a lame action scene. It'll be like an action scene on par with something out of, a Star Trek television episode. Yeah. It's not like it's real fight choreography or anything. And he doesn't say much.
Yeah.
The second one's a lot better. The second one, he does a bunch of shit.
Well, yeah, like I said, we'll kind of get into, like, this one's good, too. I'm not saying, they're all good. They're all worth watching. Christopher Lee, I would watch him read the fucking phone book, you know what I mean? Because he's just, like, cool and everything, and he always, like, classes up the joint. But like I said, I kind of wish he'd been in it more. So they are actually following, I know that the Hammer Dracula movies, they followed a loose timeline, sort of. In the first few films.
Hey.
But I kind of feel like, what's she doing?
Tearing up your boots.
Oh, is she tearing up my boots?
No.
Stop it, Pookie. She's like, but what? I want to tear up
She's
shoes.
like, it's just shoes.
Yeah, just shoes.
Yeah.
You don't need these. Kitties don't have shoes. But she's like, now she's mad. But yeah, so from the last one, because like I said, we didn't see Dracula Prince of Darkness, which is the 3rd one, the one before this one. So evidently, what happened at the end of that one. Then I've seen it a long time ago, but I don't really remember. But he's like thrown off. I think he's thrown into like a river and it freezes over. Because I think they established kind of early on in the lore that Dracula was like, one of his weaknesses was running water, which that's not totally pulled out of people's asses. That is a trope that like evil people or evil beings or whatever can't cross running water. Like, that's a pretty common thing. So I guess they kind of established that earlier on in the lore. So I guess at the end of Dracula Prince of Darkness, he got thrown into a river or something like that, and he froze. So he's frozen at the beginning of this one. Now this one, we couldn't figure out what year it was set, but we figured it was like early 20th century, and I will say I looked it up, and you were correct. It is actually set in 1905. That's when it's supposed to be set, because I was looking at the clothes and stuff, and I said, well, it's more than late 19th century. This is early 20th century. So this is supposed to be set a year after Dracula Prince of Darkness. And Dracula's ass has been frozen up there in a mountain all this time. like from the river. But it seems like the townsfolk are still like not really over it, like over this whole reign of terror that Dracula did over the village, because they're like, oh, well, the castle's still up there and its shadow still touches the church. Like, you can still feel the evil or whatever. So it's like everybody stopped going to church. The sad sack, bald-ass priest who has his hair, I was just kind of like, oh my God, please tell me that's a wig, that's not real hair. Because it was just, I mean, I guess it's a priest thing where it almost looked like a monk's tonsure or whatever they call that, where it was like empty in the middle, and then it's like there was all this gray situation like down here like this. But you know what? And I didn't even realize this until I was watching another review. I don't even think they even gave that fucking priest a name. He was just the priest.
Yeah.
Like, in the village. And he's just become this fucking sad sack. I don't even believe in God anymore, man. I just, like, sit in the pub and, like, fucking drink my sorrows away. Because nobody shows up to the church because everyone is weirded out still. Even though Dracula is supposedly dead or he's frozen or whatever. So then this Monsignor comes to town. And he's like, why the fuck isn't anybody at church? You know, because he's, like, super getting all up in everyone's business and everything. And they kind of explained to him why. It's like, yeah, but the vampire's dead. What the fuck are you worried about, you know? He's like, I'll tell you what. I'm going to take my giant brass balls up there, and I'm going to exorcise the castle, and then everything will be totally fine. And he's like, and you have to come with me, priest, whatever your name is. And he's like, I'd really rather not. But you know what I mean? But they go up there anyway. So there's this kind of long sequence where the Monsignor and the priest are like climbing up this mountain. I was looking at them like, they didn't even have hiking boots. They didn't have protein bars. They didn't have like water bottles or nothing. I'm just like, what the fuck were you even planning? So they're climbing up this mountain, and the Monsignor gets up there. Well, the priest has to like dip out because he's just kind of like, I can't make it. And he's like, all right, bitch, you just like stay here and I'm going to go the rest of the way and do this shit because obviously you are useless. So he goes up there, he does the blah, 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 and like the exorcism and everything on the castle, and then he takes his big fucking gold crucifix cross thing and like sticks it in the door handle. So while he's up there doing that shit, the little bald ass priest who's down here being all weak sauce, doesn't he like fall or something? Like, how does that even happen? Like, I think he's trying to climb back down, like to go back down to the village, and he's like, oh shit.
I don't remember.
And then he falls, and then his blood comes out his mouth and like trickles down the mountain, like right into Christopher Lee's mouth. Like there's like a crack in the ice, and I was like, well, that was fortuitous.
Yeah, I remember that.
I mean, it's not the most believable way for the vampire to be brought back, but like, well, I kind of feel like every single Hammer Dracula, and I'm not shitting on it because I fucking love Hammer movies. I will watch them all day long, and I love Christopher Lee, and I love his Dracula, but it's like I feel like the writers were just kind of like, okay, well, every single movie has to be, well, Dracula has to get resurrected at the beginning, obviously, and then at the end he always has to get destroyed. But so they always had to come up with like ways for him to get brought back, like at the beginning of the movie. So this one, he was like encased in ice, and like this dude's blood went in his mouth, and he was just like, oh, I'm awake now, and he like busts out the ice and, you know, starts going on a fucking rampage again. And now this one has the Roger Daltrey looking motherfucker in it, right?
Who's Roger Daltrey? Oh yeah, Roger Daltrey.
The guy that looks like Roger Daltrey from The Who?
Yeah.
And I'm glad to say that I forgot
who Roger Daltrey was.
I'm not the only person that like noticed that, because I saw at least 3 other reviewers that said this Roger Daltrey like a motherfucker.
Yeah.
But
he's the guy. He's the ladies' man, right?
Well, no, that was the next one.
All right,
that was the next one.
All
yeah,
right.
But the thing about it is that both, and here's another thing that's confusing. And this is another kind of running joke with like a lot of the Hammer Dracula movies. The protagonist in this one, who looks like Roger Daltrey with the perm and everything, and is running around with his no shirt on all the time.
That's right.
His name is Paul.
He works at the bakery, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
The bakery dude.
Yeah.
And the protagonist, like the man slut protagonist, like in Scars of Dracula, is also named Paul. Why the fuck was everybody named Paul in these movies? And it said that was kind of the running joke too. It's like everybody's named Paul or Simon or Sarah in these fucking movies. It's like they couldn't even come up with
British are like that.
They're just like, yeah. So both of the protagonists in both these movies are named Paul, even though they're completely different characters. So yeah, it's the guy that works in the bakery. And okay, so Dracula's mission this time around, he goes up to his castle, obviously, as he would. He's like, oh, I'm awake now. So he goes back to his castle, and he sees that big fucking cross in there, and he's like, motherfucker! And he's, like, really mad about it. So then he's like, I'm going to take revenge. But he's not going to take revenge by, like, killing the Monsignor, the one who did it. He's actually going to make the Monsignor's niece one of his brides, I'm presuming. Like, because he thinks that will be, like, a better revenge, I guess. So that's kind of the whole thing. So you have Paul, the bakery guy, who looks like Roger Daltrey. And he is... Now, I kind of liked this. They made him an atheist. And he's very, like, open about it. And he is courting the niece of the Monsignor, who is in Dracula's sights or whatever. So he goes to their house for dinner, and he's, like, not a jerk about it or anything like that. But the Monsignor asks him, and he's just like, oh, you know, I'm an atheist. Like I said, he's not, like, a shit about it or anything like that. And the Monsignor's like, oh, get out of my house, blah, blah, blah. And he's just, like, flips out about it. But I like that they had that trope, even though, of course, like, at the end, he's like, oh, yeah, I had to, you know, find my faith to fight the Dracula or whatever. But I like that they kind of made him, and they made him, like, a good, like, heroic character.
Yeah, well, the priest ended up going, like, you know, he's still a good man type of deal.
Yeah. And I liked that they did that, even though he's a filthy non-believer. You know what I mean? Right. Like, he was still, like, a good dude. And he did come around at the end. It's just like, oh, well, he, you know, loves my niece, and he's going to help save her. Now, in the midst of all this brouhaha, Dracula makes the lame-ass priest that couldn't even make it all the way up the mountain, makes him into, like, essentially a thrall. So that's how he finds out all this information about who fucked up his castle and, you know, who the niece is and all this other kind of shit. So that's pretty much, like, what the whole plot is the Dracula trying to get... Oh, and he also makes a thrall out of the big-tittied barmaid lady.
Yeah.
Xena?
Yeah.
Right? Because I made a joke about it. It was like Xena Warrior Princess. And that's another thing, too, is that she gets made into... I guess she's a thrall. She had fangs at the end, but I don't know.
She was kind of willing them.
Yeah, that's what I mean. She was kind of into it. Like, you know, I'm not going to lie. Like, Christopher Lee comes in there and is like, hey, I'm going to make you a vampire. I'm like, okay, I'm on board. But, like, so she was just kind of like, yeah, all right. But then she was mad when she found out that he was after the niece.
Yeah, she got jealous.
Yeah, because I think he was just using the barmaid. Because the barmaid, like, worked in the same place.
Well, they set the barmaid up as being a slut.
Yeah, a little bit.
Basically. That she's trying to fuck all these dudes.
Well, she was trying to put the moves on Paul because he got super drunk, remember, in the pub.
Yeah.
And then she's like, oh, I'll take you upstairs to the room. And then she's like, oh, I can just, like, take your pants off and all stuff. Even though she knew that he had a girlfriend.
She's hot and everything.
Yeah.
And but she ends up seeing Dracula, and she's like, oh, hell yeah. She was impressed with him. So later on, he's doing stuff to her. You know, he's biting her. He's changing her. I think she got little fangs at times, didn't she?
Yeah, she had fangs, like, at the end when they...
Right. Well, she ends up finding out that he doesn't even like her. He likes the blonde.
He was just using her to get at the other girl.
She got furious with his ass. She's like, what the hell are you going after her for? You got me, you know? And then she stood up for herself. He killed her.
Well, yeah.
Yeah, for that, yeah. Which I was like, man... they just had to get a body count in the movie.
Well, yeah,
is what it was.
I mean, it's a horror movie. You got to see people get
somebody
killed.
Had to die.
Kind of the whole
I don't think that was a good way to kill her. I would think that an experienced vampire would know how to deal with that in a better way.
An experienced vampire.
Yeah, because hey, man, he'd have a whole Rolodex full of undead.
I have 500 years experience as a vampire, and I know what I'm doing.
Yeah, and I got a harem of fucking 30 vampire women. You know. And so you would think that he would have all different kinds of women in his Rolodex, you know, in his stable, and I'm sure that over the years he'd find out how useful a woman like this would be. You know,
yeah, especially since she was like so into it.
She was like into him, even not didn't matter that he was turning into a vampire. She was into it before.
Yeah, she was all about it.
Yeah, no,
she's just kind of like, hey, you're the only interesting man in this village.
Yeah. So, you know, I just thought it was kind of like a cheap blow to where he just gets mad, like, oh, don't you backtalk me, and he kills her.
Yeah, pow.
Yeah, sure, he can make another one, but a willing one would be more valuable than one that you just turned.
Yeah, because and they kind of show that a little bit. Maybe not that. Maybe they didn't mean to. Yeah. But what ends up happening is that she's kind of a thrall, and the priest is kind of a thrall. But the priest is not super willing. Like, yeah, he lost his faith, and yeah, he's like, oh, I can't do anything about it, and he's like self-hating and all of that kind of stuff. So he's just kind of doing the bidding, but he's still kind of conflicted about it. Like, he still kind of doesn't want to do it. And like the fact that Dracula makes him, like, after he kills Xena, he tells the priest, hey, get rid of her, like, and he throws her in the big like bakery oven, like the fire and stuff. And I think, like, the more that he made the priest do fucked up shit, that was how he was able to kind of, like, get to the end and be like, man, I can't fucking do this anymore. You know what I mean? Yeah. So he still had some of his faith and his, like, humanity in there.
In most vampire stories, the male thralls, the ones that they keep around, are willing, too. Like, Renfield was kind of willing. And if you read between the lines, you know, it's because he had promised Renfield everlasting life as the undead. So that's one way you could get a guy to serve you.
Right.
Promise to make him a vampire. But instead you give him a little bit. Or he's not really a vampire, he's a real weak one.
Yeah.
So
you're just a half-assed vampire.
Yeah. But, you know, they need those thralls to help them do their shit.
Well, yeah, you need somebody that can walk around in the daytime and do regular human being shit.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
So, you know what I mean? I just was kind of like, what did he kill her for? He could have kept that going for a long, long time.
Maybe he just thought it was too much to deal with. He's like, oh, I don't want to deal with this, like, fucking jealousy issue. Yeah. Because, like I said, it's not, like, a super believable, but at least in Dracula in this one, he had, like, a mission. His whole mission was he was going to fuck with the Monsignor who...
Killed him.
No, he didn't kill him. He exercised his castle.
Yeah.
He exercised his castle so he couldn't live in it anymore.
That's right.
So he was mad about it.
He didn't put him in the ice, though.
No. That was from the last movie. Okay. As far as I know.
Okay.
Because I didn't see Dracula Prince of Darkness.
I was under the impression that he also, like, destroyed him in the movie before, but
I don't think he did, though, because he didn't really know what was going on so much, like, when he came to the pub, because he was like, I don't know, maybe that same guy was in Dracula Prince of Darkness, I'm not sure. Like I said, we were going to watch that one, but I couldn't really find it. So I don't know what happened at the end of that. I don't know if he was the one that, like, put him in the ice or what. So, I mean, if that was the case, then that would... you know, make it more that he was like, oh, I know why he's mad. But I mean, he's still mad because he's like, this motherfucker came up here and put this big fucking cross on my door and now I can't get in my fucking house. So, you know, he was mad about that. And like I said, so he decided he was going to take Maria, his virginal niece or whoever, and make her into a bride because he thought that would be like the ultimate fuck you know what I mean? So the thing about it, so when they have this big battle with Dracula at the end, so you have Paul... or Roger Daltrey, as I call him. So you have Roger Daltrey and the Roger Daltrey, the clone, and the priest who finally, like, snaps out of his thrallness or whatever. The problem, though, and I wasn't sure how this worked. So they actually did, like, they go to his, like, Dracula's little lair or whatever, and they stake him. But I don't know. Okay, so when did they establish the fact that you have to not only stake them, but you have to, like, pray over it too? Because I thought you could just stake them and one and done. You know what I mean? Yeah. But so so the fact,
just adding to it.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. So the fact that they staked him, but because Paul was an atheist, so his prayers don't work apparently, and because the priest had lost his faith and was also kind of a vampire thrall, his prayers didn't work either. So the staking didn't take. Right?
I guess
so. So I was just kind of like, well, how does that work? I don't know. I thought you just staked him and that was fine. But no. So so Dracula, like, gets up and he's just like, huh, and he just, like, pulls the fucking stake out. And so then he, like, takes Maria and, you know, then they have to, like, go fucking fight him and stuff. Now, here's the thing. So, again, like, the big battle to end, Dracula always has to be destroyed. So they're fighting on this roof or whatever. And Paul... who is, you know, he looked like a pretty fit dude, but he was probably like 150 pounds soaking wet. And that's being generous.
Yeah.
He is able to kind of like... because what ends up happening is Maria, earlier, she takes the cross off the door and, like, throws it off the cliff, and it, like, lands face up conveniently, like, with the pointy bit up. And so then, so Paul and Dracula are, like, fighting on the roof, and Paul is somehow able to, like, yeet Dracula off the castle wall. And he lands and, like, gets staked, which is a great scene, by the way. I really do like, because Christopher Lee is down there, there's a big fucking cross, like, sticking out of it, and he's just like, oh, shit, you know what I mean? And it's, like, and it's really good. It's really well done. But I was like, I don't know if I believe that little Paul dude could just chuck a powerful vampire off a roof.
Yeah.
You know?
At 150, 155 pounds.
I mean...
He's kind of shredded, but he didn't have much mass.
Yeah, he was in good shape. I'm not saying that, because like I said, they did show him shirtless a bunch of times, so he was like in good shape.
Yeah, they wanted you to see that he was shredded.
Yeah, he's like, look.
But he wasn't big, though.
Right, and I mean, Dracula is a supernatural being with superhuman strength, so I would just think you'd just push him, and it would just be like, it would be like a fucking concrete abutment or something.
This movie seemed like it was older than it really was.
A bit.
It seemed like it was an old movie. The other one seemed a lot more fresh. There's something about it. It was,
and there were only a couple of years between those two.
The writing was better.
Yeah, like I said, it's weird because I kind of feel like people, like, the perception is that people tend to like this movie better than Scars of Dracula.
Yeah, tripping.
But I liked Scars of Dracula more because of how lurid it was.
Yeah. I think the reason why they're liking this one is because it seems like an old 1930s Universal picture.
Yeah.
You know, from Universal monster movie. That's what it seems like. It's like they're aping that style, but it's in color.
Yeah, well, that was kind of the idea from the get. Like, you know, when Hammer was doing these, they're like, well, we want to take the classic movie monsters or, like, bring them to the modern era, like, with more tits and more blood, and which, like, I mean, they were bloody for the time. I mean,
wasn't that big of a difference, though.
Yeah, they're not really.
Not at this point.
But I guess it would have seemed like more of a difference back then, I guess.
Later, they got a lot better.
Yeah.
Like, Carmilla was real good. The one after this, Scars of Dracula, I thought that was real good.
Yeah, it was actually 2 after this. I think that after this one was Taste the Blood of Dracula, and then it was Scars of Dracula.
Yeah.
And then I think it was AD 1972, I think.
They're getting more violent, more sadistic, more sexual.
And I think Scars of Dracula is the most gory. Because I was actually surprised at how gory it was. And like I said, Hammer movies, they tend to be like bloodier than obviously like the Universal monster movies, but Scars of Dracula actually surprised me at how violent it was. And I think that that's something that a lot of people bring up, that it's just kind of like, man, they just went like so over the top with it. But I didn't mind that. I thought that was actually pretty good because I like that kind of shit, but you know what I mean. I want to say something that they did in this one too, which I just kind of wanted to point out. That I think, like, Freddie Francis directed this. Like I said, he did a lot of Hammer movies. He did some Amicus movies as well. And he used these weird filters, like color filters. So sometimes in some of the shots, there's like a weird, like, vignette effect, like around the edges of the frame that are like colored, that are like yellow or amber or kind of red or something like that. And it's really interesting. Like, it's not really on, they didn't really do that in any of the other movies, and I guess he just wanted to do that. I think they were the same filters they used for The Innocents, but that was in black and white.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So it looks really strange, but also kind of interesting. Because a couple shots in this, I was like, man, that kind of looks like a Giallo film. Like, look at that, like, saturation, like, around the edges of the frame. And then when I looked it up, they said, yeah, he had these, like, filters that
between watching these two movies, we caught a little bit of a documentary about Hammer films.
Yeah, I gotta finish watching. I gotta finish watching.
It was pretty good.
Actually.
We saw about 20, 30 minutes.
I mean, it's old, but you know, but I thought it was like really interesting.
I didn't realize that they were so big, but then went back off into obscurity. What in a period of about 15 years, 20 years?
Yeah, they're heyday.
They weren't around long.
Well, no, they were around from 1930s, 1940s.
Oh, was it? All right.
But they didn't really, I mean, they're most famous for their horror movies, and they didn't really start those until, like, the 50s.
Yeah, okay.
You know what I mean?
Okay.
They made other kind of movies,
well, they said that period only lasted about 20 years, I think, what they said.
By the time the 70s came around, and like I said, we'll talk about that in a second, because when we talk about Scars of Dracula, by the time Scars of Dracula and, like, the later Dracula movies were coming out, Hammer was kind of on the decline.
Yeah.
Now, Hammer are still, they did a revival. They're still around nowadays. And they still make some horror movies. They make some other things, too. But they made, like, because they made The Woman in Black, like the one with Daniel Radcliffe, which was actually pretty decent. And they made a couple of other ones since then. I mean, it's nothing like it was back then, but so yeah. So honestly, yeah. So I liked this movie. I liked this movie a lot. I liked the characters, but it did seem, especially in comparison with Scars of Dracula, which, like I said, a lot of people, it's kind of like the most disparaged one of the series, I feel like. But I kind of liked that one for how brutal it was. I mean, at least in relation to like the other ones. You know what I'm saying?
Tastes change.
Sure. Yeah.
I like this one. I like Scars of Dracula better.
I did as well. I know, and I like that might be a pretty
because it had it was a new take on things.
Yeah.
They're showing you more details about what Dracula's doing behind the fucking scenes. It's more about Dracula.
Yeah.
They're showing you how he slept, which is pretty fucking cool.
Yeah. We need to get into
and it was just right out of Anne Rice. I know Anne Rice saw this movie.
Probably so, yeah.
Yeah. Well, I think she saw all Dracula and vampire movies that she could get her hands on. But in this one, Dracula has in his castle. He sleeps in a room that there's no way to get into from inside the castle. It's all totally walled off, but that room has a window, and it's all stone. It looks, where his sarcophagus is, his fucking coffin. There's a window in there, and the window's overlooking a sheer cliff. Well, he just gets out and walks up the wall.
Yeah, because he
goes into the floor above it, and that's how he gets in. So
right.
You can't.
But nobody else can.
Nobody else can get in there
unless you got like some fucking
rope, and you know where it is.
Mountain climbing shit.
And that was some cool shit. That was one of the things that was really cool about Anne Rice Vampire Chronicles, because she'd let you in on all the details of how vampires lived. And yeah, you could live in a normal house for a little while, but that long term you couldn't live in there because the house could burn down. They could, humans could get in there and find out where you sleep. If a vampire wanted to live a long time, he had to have a hidden vault where he slept. Like Magnus had one where he just would pull a stone out of a wall in an old abandoned castle, and there was a tunnel. He'd get in there, and on the other side of that stone there was a little wrought iron ring, and he'd put his foot in there and drag it in behind him, and it was hundreds and hundreds of pounds. A human couldn't move it. And then he'd walk, or he'd crawl. It was a channel or a tunnel the size of a single stone. He'd go 30 or 40 feet, and it would open up into just a vault that had the coffin in there. There's no way in or out of there. Sealing yourself up at night, and it was impervious to fire.
Which is very clever. So.
Yeah, you couldn't burn a castle that was stone. Well, the same thing in this one. Dracula's...
Tammy said Spider-Man could get in.
Spider-Man could get in. That's right.
Fair enough.
Yeah. Well, I was going, he must turn into a bat and fly out. But no, he just
like,
fucking went up there and just walked out.
He can climb down the wall. I really like that they did, because Leslie just mentioned that. It's very cool, Christopher Lee climbing the castle wall in Scars. Yeah, because honestly, that was one of the things that I loved the most from the novel, was like... Dracula climbing down the wall like a fucking bug.
Yeah.
I thought that was so cool, that image. And they don't put it in a lot of movies. Matter of fact, what I heard about Scars of Dracula is that the director of this, which was Roy Ward Baker, who directed a shit ton of stuff, but he very specifically wanted to put a shot of Dracula climbing down the wall, and the production people were like, no, we can't afford that, because this, I'll get into it in a little bit, but this movie had a lot lower budget than most of the previous ones.
Didn't seem like it.
But yeah, so they were like, yeah, we can't afford that, but he insisted he really wanted that in there.
Oh, that's a great shot.
Because because it's and Christopher Lee, and this is not a secret either, but Christopher Lee kind of felt a little bit the more that he had to play the character, he was mad that it was getting more and more away from the character from the novel. He wanted to get back more into the classic Dracula thing. So, putting things like that that were from the novel, like him climbing down the wall, and kind of having Dracula in this one be more of a character, and people coming to his house and him hosting them and giving them wine and stuff like that. I feel like that was more along the lines of what he was talking about.
Yeah.
Yeah,
and he had some fine vampire girlfriends, but once again, he kills them.
Which yeah, we'll get into that. Holy crap!
Yeah, which I guess makes him. He's more menacing.
Really villainous in this one.
Yeah, we're like, dude, man.
He did some fucked up shit.
Well, she did cheat on him. She cheated on him.
Yeah, we'll get into that.
But was she trying to drink that dude, or was she actually trying to escape? I don't know.
That's what. Yeah, they didn't really make that.
I think she was a vampire. I think she was trying to drink that guy.
Right.
But
drink him like a Capri Sun.
But Dracula saw it as infidelity. He killed her. Killed her with a knife too, stabbing her.
He was almost kind of like, "Bitch, you're not even worth biting."
Yeah.
I'm just gonna stab you right in your fucking
stomach.
stomach.
And then left her there. Left her dead in the bed.
Well, he left her there, and then he made his lackey fucking dismember her and like throw her in acid or something. It's it's pretty fucked up.
He threw her in water and she boiled away. So.
I think it was supposed to be acid.
Was it supposed to be acid?
I think it was supposed to be acid. Like when I looked it up later, I was like, oh yeah.
Maybe she wasn't totally turned into a vampire.
Yeah, I'm not real clear on like the rules of how that.
She was fine though.
She was, yeah.
She was fine, and they didn't use her for very long in the movie.
Yeah. What was her name? Tanya, right?
Yeah.
That was her name.
Yeah.
But yeah, so this one, Scars of Dracula, okay, so there was a movie in between these two that we didn't see. That was Taste the Blood of Dracula, which we'll have to get into in a little bit.
Good.
But this one, Scars of Dracula, okay, so Hammer put out four vampire movies in 1970, which is when this one came out. Two of them had Christopher Lee in them. The other two did not. I think they also put out The Vampire Lovers and Lust for a Vampire, I think was the other one. But yeah, so 4 fucking vampire movies. So, like I said, at this point, Hammer was kind of starting to, like, they were on the decline a little bit. And right before Scars of Dracula came out, or while it was in production, or whatever, they actually lost their deal with their American distributors. So I think that they were going with, I think it was EMI that they were going with at this point. And so the budget for this one was cut, like, prodigiously. They didn't really get a lot of the budget that they would normally get for a movie like this. So some people have said that the effects in this like look notably cheaper, which I didn't notice it so much. Now the matte paintings look very obviously like matte paintings and miniatures, so there is that.
But they look stylish to me.
But yeah, it didn't really like. Other than that, it didn't really like smack me in the face with it looking like a lot cheaper. But a lot of people have complained that this one looks a lot cheaper than the other ones, which maybe it does. But I didn't see a huge. The
story
difference.
Makes up for it, man.
Yeah, and like I said, the fact that I was actually shocked by how fucked up some of the stuff that happens in this is, like, it kind of made up for a lot of stuff, you know? So yeah, so this one was the first one. Like I said, they did have some kind of loose continuity with these Dracula movies. This one kind of breaks the continuity a little bit. Because at the beginning, you know, obviously Dracula's dead because he's dead at the beginning of everyone and he has to be resurrected. And he is like these red ashes. Now, he did apparently get turned into red ashes at the end of Taste the Blood of Dracula, but it happened in London, and this one is not in London. This one is in an imaginary Eastern European vaguely area, I think.
Yeah, it's
Transylvania. Yeah, it's supposed to be like Transylvania with his castle or whatever.
Yeah. And there's the mysterious bats.
Yeah, so how he gets resurrected in this one. And this is not really explained.
Never was. I thought they were.
Because the whole time we were like, are they going to explain this or no?
Yeah.
Okay. They never do explain it. Spoiler alert. But yeah, so at the very beginning, now that's the one thing I like about this one though, because like in Dracula's Risen from the Grave, it takes a while for Dracula to actually get risen from the, and it wasn't a grave, it was a frozen thing. It was like a block of ice, okay? But we're not going to quibble. But it took a while for that to happen. Like, it was like half an hour into the movie or something like that. Like, before he even got up and started running around. This one, he's resurrected immediately, like in the pre-credit sequence. And I was on board with that.
Yeah. It looked cool.
So he's in his room, which they don't show you. You can't access until later. You know what I mean? But he's in his room in his coffin or whatever. And this bat, this very obviously fake bat, but it's like the bat flies in the window.
Big fake bat comes in.
Bat flies in the window and like dribbles blood on him, like in his mouth.
On his dust,
on his red dust, because he's just a red dust with a cape.
Yeah.
And this like causes him to
grow. He grows back.
He grows back, like bones up, and he has clothes and everything.
Yeah, and it's an old school effect, but it looked cool.
Yeah, it was like a dissolve.
Yeah,
like from a skeleton, like up to.
So we're like, oh, so another vampire helped him.
See, that's what I was saying. I was like, who is that bat?
Yeah, and the bat, you see the bat throughout the whole movie appear, but I guess it's Dracula in his bat form. But it's that same prop that they used. So you think it's another vampire. I did. I thought it was another vampire helping him.
I thought it was too.
But no, it wasn't.
But it's
so
not.
we don't know who the first bat was.
Yeah, it
and
was
all
like,
the
who
other
is that first bat? It was, it can't be Dracula because he can't bring his own ass back to life, can he?
And then all the other bats are Dracula. But that's the same fucking rubber bat. It's just,
and he's just, this is just some random bat that was just...
And they could have easily fucking... they could have easily explained it. Tanya.
They chose not to. Yeah, see, that's what I thought. When she was introduced, I was like, oh, she must be the bat.
The bat. Right.
Like, that's his girlfriend. That's his vampire bride. And she was like, oh, I'll wake you up, master.
They could have had it so Tanya...
So she was the bat.
Had a vial of his blood to bring him back to life in case anything ever happens to him.
And why are you not a screenwriter?
They need to make me write this shit. Yeah. Not to write that shit.
I mean, that's all you needed was like one line.
And then you know, all you needed after that is have a scene where he fucking thanks her. You know what I mean? Or rewards her for following his instructions.
Yeah. In case any bad shit ever, in case I ever get like reduced to ashes. Yeah. This is what I need to do.
And then he could have bit his own arm like that and dribbled it into a damn vial and screwed it shut. And he goes, just in case it happens again, here's more.
Yeah.
Yeah, here's more of my blood.
Which, hey, that's another...
And there you go, man.
That's your insurance
You can get another movie out of that.
Sure.
You can get another movie out of that. Even if you kill Tanya, you can still say, well, that vial was still fucking around.
Right, so if somebody finds that...
They found it, yeah.
I mean, honestly, all you had to do in the first or second movie was you could set up Dracula being like, "Man, my bitch ass is gonna live forever," and he just fills up all these vials, and then like he's got a whole bunch of them like in a well, you wouldn't have a refrigerator back then, but you know what I'm saying? Like you'd have like a bunch of the vials, and so you'd always have some like way for him to be brought back.
You could have your army, your gypsy army of mercenaries. You give them some vials in case I ever die. You know what I mean? Fucking, you can find my body and bring me back, and I'll give you a mountain of gold. That can, then the gypsies can bring it back. Exactly. All different ways you could do
exactly.
it. Give it to thralls.
Right.
You know what I mean? Find my body and pour this on it, and I'll come back.
Yeah, you even like give them a coded message or something like that, so just some rando didn't find it, but still. Yeah, right. So the whole time, like the bat that came in, we were like intrigued like the whole time. It's like, who is this bat? And we thought we were gonna like figure out like who the bat was. But they never... And then, like I said, when Tanya showed up, I was just kind of like, oh, she's the bat. But I guess she's not the bat. Because I didn't know if she was a full vampire or not. But yeah, I don't know. But like I said, I'll get in... I don't know the rules about being a thrall and stuff. So this mysterious bat brings him back to life. And immediately, he's Dracula, so he's going to start, like, drinking some bitches, right? So he does that to one woman. And the villagers are just, outraged, as they would be. The guy like brings his daughter into the church. He's like, "Look what happened! Like this fucking with this Dracula, we killed him and now he's back or whatever." So, and again, this is like this movie like pretty much front loads it with like cool shit, because minutes into the movie, Dracula's already killed the lady. You don't see it; it's like off screen. But the dad carries her into the church, and it's like, look at this, is fucked up. All the villagers are like, "Wah!" And they just like immediately all go get torches. We're gonna burn that fucking shit down, and they go and burn his fucking castle down. Like 5 minutes into the movie, it's literally like 5 minutes.
Yeah, but the thrall says fire will never reach him.
Yeah,
and he thought of that. He had his special vampire safe room.
Yeah,
couldn't burn it down.
So they're just kind of like, bring it, bitches.
I think it just burned the roof off of it and some other places, because he was back in it living.
He was living in part of it.
Living in part of it.
It looked like
didn't burn it off.
It wasn't real clear because, like I said, the castle that they showed was either a matte painting or a miniature, so it wasn't real clear like where in the castle he was living or where his coffin was, like on that wall. Because I'm sitting there going, well, where would it be? Because it looked like the top of the castle was like all burned off, I thought. You know what I mean? From the map painting or whatever. Yeah. So it's just kind of like, I thought he was like in another building somewhere. Like, haha, bitches, I'm like hiding over here. I thought it was that kind of thing. So that happens. Oh, I also have to say, the dude that plays his thrall in this one, like his servant, who is named Clove. Now, I think in Dracula Prince of Darkness, which I haven't seen since I was a teenager, but he also had a servant named Clove in that one, like with a K. But it was a different actor, and it was clearly a different character. So I'm not really sure why they reused the name again, but whatever. So this guy, who's played by the same dude that played the priest in The Omen that got fucking impaled.
Yeah.
Like, he was in a million other things, too. But that's what I remembered him from. I'm like, oh my god, it's the priest from The Omen. But yeah, so he's in this, and he's got, like, some crazy fucking eyebrows, man. Oh my god.
They added eyebrows to him.
They added eyebrows on, and I was just like, the eyebrows are like a separate entity, man. They were just kind of, it was a whole vibe that
he looks like a gorilla in it.
He does. And he like he's great. I like him though. Yeah. Like he's totally like chewing the scenery, but I was into it. So he's the servant, and yeah, he says to the villagers, burn it all you want, like, you know, you'll never get to him. So there's that. So while all of that is going on, there's also all of our regular young people characters like you usually have in these movies. Now this dude's name is also Paul, and he is a man whore. At the beginning, we find him. He is fucking the Burgomeister.
Yeah, Burgomeister's
his daughter. Yeah, he's fucking her.
Yeah, and she's hot.
And he also has another girlfriend or something. Yeah. And he's just like, oh, I'm supposed to go to this other girlfriend's. But I don't know. I'll get into this later, but I'm not sure if that other girl is his girlfriend or it's his brother's girlfriend. I don't really get it. But I think they supposedly, like, at the first time, like, tried to set up this love triangle, but I think it didn't really play out, like, the way they thought, because there was like so many cuts and everything.
Something that they dropped.
Yeah, I think they dropped it eventually, because originally I thought that she was like, oh, I kind of like both the brothers and I'm fucking both of them and I'm gonna marry one of them, but I can't decide which one. I don't know. I thought it was that, but then they didn't really do anything with it, but we'll get into that later. So this Paul is fucking the Burgomeister's daughter, and they get caught. Like, Burgomeister comes home in his outfit with all the feathers and pimp and gold and everything, and he sees her, and she just like totally like run around, like comes down the stairs like all naked and shit, and she's like, I'm like, that's a little weird.
Yeah.
And then she straight up, this fucking hussy, she's mad because Paul is like, oh, I gotta go, and she's like, you're going to see another girl, which he is, and he's like, no, I'm totally not. I have to go to this other like not other girl thing. And so, but she doesn't believe it, and so she straight up accuses her, like, because he's leaving and she's naked, and so the dad comes in just like, what's the meaning of this and all this other shit, and then like she's like, oh, he interfered with me. She says
straight up accused him of rape.
Right. And he's just like, gotta go. So he's like, he
blew over though. That was the funny thing. He put him in a jail.
Well, he basically had to go to like the next town over, to avoid being like picked up by the authorities.
That's right. They were looking for him.
They were looking for him still. So that's how he kind of ended up, because he actually is running away from the law, and he ends up at this inn that's kind of right by the Dracula castle. And it's after dark, and they don't want to let him in. And that also has, like, a hot barmaid who is just kind of like, oh, okay, I'll let you in. And then they just start making out, like, immediately, because he's a fucking player.
Yeah.
This fucking dude.
Yeah.
He just, like, every single time, like, he sees a woman, he's like, yeah, I'm gonna... And then she's just like, okay.
Yeah, and if they're hot, then they just fall right into his hands.
He just has, like, a magic dick, I guess. It's a magic dick.
Yeah. So anyways, that's where he meets that hot, blonde hussy. She wasn't blonde though. She was dark haired.
Yeah, she was dark haired.
Yeah, the blonde one was in the other movie.
Yeah. Well, this has a blonde in it too, but the blonde is his brother's girlfriend. But like I said, I thought it was kind of his girlfriend too at the time, but it's like that didn't really work out in it.
Well, he shows up at this inn, and they won't let, and she's not supposed to let him in because they're afraid of the damn vampire.
Right.
So her boss comes, and they end up kicking him out. After they were almost making out, she was almost.
Well, they were kind of making out because he was just kind of like, hey, I'm just,
She was going to take him up to her bed. And
we don't have any beds available.
You can sleep with me.
You don't have any rooms available. And he's like, well, how about a bed? And she's like...
And this shit happened in like within 2 minutes. And I'm like, this is a trap. This doesn't happen. This is a trap, dude.
That's what I said. I'm like, this dude's
an
idiot.
This doesn't happen like this, man.
Like a woman that was not it was not a serial killer or a prostitute is not going to be like, hey, come see me, like within like 2 seconds.
Yeah, well, it's three things. She's a serial killer, or she's the front for a fucking for a mugger. She's gonna get you somewhere. They're gonna mug you, or she's a hooker.
Yeah, those are the only three possibilities. That shit where a woman is just kind of like, yeah, I'll jump on a stranger's dick, that only happens in porn.
Yeah.
That never happens in real life.
It does.
Well, that very rarely happens in real life.
It's rare here. It's a lot more common in South America.
Well, yeah, but I'm just talking
because
about...
they're professional girls. It's just, yeah. If it's too easy, it's going to cost you. You know, you may not be able to afford it, depending on how much money you got. So, no.
But it's... I was watching a review of this earlier. Like,
Yeah.
if you guys are not subscribed to Grumpy Andrew's Horror House, I love him. He's a British dude. And he loves all these Hammer movies and stuff like that. And I was watching his review of this earlier, and he said this part of the movie like plays out almost like a British sex comedy,
Yeah.
which it kind of does, because Paul is just kind of like constantly, you know, falling into these women's vaginas and then like
Yeah.
having to like climb out of windows to like
Yeah.
escape justice. and
Yeah.
stuff. Like, it's not, I don't want to oversell it. Like, it's not zany or Benny Hill or anything, but it does have that kind of like British sex farce vibe to it.
So he gets kicked out of the inn. So he runs up. He goes, well, I'm going to go up to the castle. Maybe
They're just like,
yeah, they're like,
and he's just like, oh, maybe they'll be nicer up there.
Yeah. So he goes up there and he knocks on the door, and a beautiful woman lets him in, comes in and gets him, and that was Tanya.
Yeah.
Tanya lets him in, and then Dracula comes up and meets him. And they give him fucking wine and shit.
he's all
and tell him that he
slick
can
and
stay, and it was pretty cool. You know what I mean? I'm like, okay, this is a fucking vampire movie. This is what I was paid to see.
Well, like I said, it's kind of like the novel where Dracula's like a host.
Yeah.
You didn't really see that in a lot of the Hammer
Right.
movies.
He, you know, he's being Dracula and doing Dracula type stuff.
Doing Dracula things.
Yeah. And they give him a room. And he's in there looking for his brother. Because he thinks his brother ended up in there.
No. This is the first.
Oh, the
guy.
first guy. That's right. It's
Yeah,
the
we
second
haven't got to the brother yet.
Yeah. That's right. The brother comes looking for him later.
The brother Simon comes looking
that's
for him
right,
later.
That's right. Got confused. And they give him a room. And fucking what ended up happening? Oh yeah, Tanya comes in.
She just knocks on the room with her nightgown and stuff like that.
Yeah, she comes in there fine as hell and just throws herself at him. She's like, I'm a prisoner here. You know.
They fuck and everything.
Yeah, I guess they did. Right.
Well, yeah, they did.
Yeah, and she says she's a prisoner there, and
she's like, oh.
I think she doesn't say that he's a vampire though, does she?
No.
Yeah. So I don't know exactly if she was gonna. It sounded like she was gonna betray Dracula.
They didn't make it real clear over whether she said that just because she wanted to drink him.
Yeah, I wasn't sure.
Because she did hit.
Yeah.
I mean, they fucked.
Right.
But, I mean, they didn't show it, but they implied very strongly.
Yeah.
So I didn't know if she was just saying that, like, to be like, oh, poor me, like, you know what I mean? Like, you know, let's fuck.
Yeah.
Or if she was actually trying to get him to help her escape. They never really made that super clear.
Yeah. Well, he wakes up, and Dracula's right there overlooking the bed. He just starts killing her with a knife.
Yeah, he just... like a fucking straight-up serial killer, man.
Yeah.
Like, right in the stomach.
Curved knife. Bah, 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 bah. He's jugging her up.
And then he drinks out of her stomach.
Yeah, I think he does, yeah.
Yeah, he drinks out of her stomach.
And I can't remember what happened.
That's messed up.
He while this is going on, Dracula basically locks him in that room.
Yeah.
He tries to escape. He makes a rope out of the curtains and throws it out the window and tries to make his way down that sheer cliff. But there was no way he could make it all the way to the bottom, but he was trying to make it to a place where there were some of these little rocks that you could grab onto.
Right.
And as he was climbing down, he found a window. Yeah,
he's like,
open window, didn't have glass or anything. Just
a window.
So he goes in there, and that was
And then
Dracula's secret vault.
Yeah.
And he opens up the fucking casket and sees Dracula. And that's the last time you see him. You don't see that character until later.
I forgot to mention, because while we were mentioning like fucked up shit happened in this movie, like where he just stabbed that woman in the stomach and then drank blood out of her stomach.
Yeah.
Like, you're not even worth like biting your neck, like, because that's like a sexual thing, and I hate you because you fucked me over.
Something like that. Yeah.
I forgot that prior to this, after the villagers burned the castle down, Dracula apparently sent all the bats and killed all the women in the village.
That's right.
Because they go into the church and it looks like a fucking slasher movie.
Yeah.
There's dead women everywhere. There's blood splattered all over I was like, holy shit. There's a woman with her eyeball hanging out. Holy crap.
That's how he punished the town.
Yeah, so it's like, I totally forgot. So that like shocked me.
That,
like, not, it doesn't shock me because, like I said, I've seen way worse than that in horror movies, but not in a Hammer movie. I was just kind of like, holy crap. They really like went for broke on this one, didn't they?
So then,
it's a fucking bloodbath.
After that happened, the dude's brother and his wife, another fine one.
His fiance, girlfriend, something.
Yeah. She's kind of, she's this blonde, cleavage, the whole 9 yards. So, and they go to the inn. and that's where he picks up the trail of his brother. And he finds out.
Yes, they're looking because they're like, where is that motherfucker?
They find out that he went to the castle.
Yeah.
So they go to the castle. Now that brunette gets attacked by Dracula and turned into a the scuzzy chick she wasn't scuzzy, but the slutty chick that was working at the end.
Yeah.
She gets turned into a thrall, and she's all.
I don't know if I'd be calling her slutty, but she was.
She was trying to hit everything.
Over eager.
Yeah, she's trying to hit. She was just trying to hook up with somebody.
But she did end up helping.
Yeah.
Simon and the bland blonde chick. Like when nobody else would, because everybody was like, "Just get out of here. We don't want."
They were trying to say that she was a hoe, though.
Well, I know, but I'm just saying.
That's why Dracula in the end didn't like her. He liked purity.
Dracula don't like hoes.
Yeah, he uses hoes.
Even though you think Dracula would be all about that.
You think he'd be all about it.
Or you think, like I said,
he'd have a variety.
Yeah, that he'd just have a today I'm in a hoe kind of mood.
Yeah, he's and my good girls and he did.
Right.
Where's my funny girl? That's actually how Dracula would really be.
That's how a Dracula would.
Yeah, he'd have.
That's how a Dracula do.
Yeah.
He would have like a whole panoply.
Yeah, he'd have a whole bunch of different ones. He'd have a fat girl. A pretty fat girl. He'd have one of those.
He'd have fat girls, skinny girls, tall girls, short girls.
He'd have a whole collection. Yeah.
I mean, you would do that if you were a vampire.
All men will do that.
So that's what I'm saying.
Just go back in history and look at.
So I'm just saying, yeah, any dude, any heterosexual man that would be made into a vampire and was given had the wherewithal to do that or was given the or was allowed to do that would absolutely do that.
Yeah.
You would just have like a whole. Yeah. They would have a whole harem. Like I said, Thomas told me that he would have a harem if he was allowed.
Yeah.
You're not allowed though.
Now, given left to their own devices, dudes do this. Mm-hmm. Societies keep them in check.
They do.
But left to their own devices, they'll do it. And if you look at human history, men were polygamous. The more money you had, the more power you had, the more women they had. So they would have a couple different wives, and then they'd have a whole bunch of damn concubines, and then party girls. And it goes. Genghis Khan had I think about 1,000 of them. I think what was his name? Charlemagne had a bunch of them. It's just when left to their own. In medieval type situations, all the hypergamy, all the good-looking girls of the town are going for the noblemen. There are not enough noblemen, and there's a shit ton of good-looking girls. They don't want to date a peasant.
Well,
if they're forced to date a peasant, they'll do it. But they'll fool around with the nobleman because he can do something for her. So most of those noblemen had a whole bunch of women.
Yeah, well, yeah, like I said.
Yeah, because women date over and up. They date up. Dudes date down. They don't have any problem with that. They'll prefer to date down. They find it attractive. That's why a lot of those really rich executive girls, they can't really find mates. The guys that they are interested in are going out with poor girls that work at Starbucks or something.
True.
Yeah.
So fucked up shit. So not only does Dracula stab Tanya in the stomach after he finds her and has fucked the dude. I don't know if he was mad because she fucked the dude or if he was mad because she was like, oh, she betrayed me and said she wanted to escape.
Yeah.
Like I said, it's not clear, but it doesn't really matter. So he stabs her in the stomach, drinks blood out of her stomach, which, like I said, I was fucked up, and then leaves her there for old Clove, the Omen priest. It's like, hey, get rid of her. And then Clove cuts her into pieces and dissolves her pieces in acid.
Yeah.
So, like I said, this is kind of hardcore for a Hammer movie.
Yeah.
Kind of hardcore. Cool. Yeah, I did too, but that's kind of why I was kind of into it. So, yeah. They also added the little plot trope or plot sideline of Clove being falling in love with Sarah, who's Simon's love interest, the blonde, because they always have a blonde and a brunette, and usually a redhead. I don't know, was there a redhead in this one? There was a redhead in the other one. The barmaid was a redhead.
Yeah, I don't think this had a redhead.
But this one had a blonde and a couple of brunettes.
The other barmaid was a redhead.
Yeah.
And she was
in
another
the first
wanton hussy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, you know.
They always had
those redheads.
You got to put those kind of characters in a British movie of this era.
I'm a natural redhead.
Yeah.
So it's a take of that.
You're not a natural hussy though.
I'm not a natural hussy. No. Am I a learned hussy?
Yeah, you learned it.
I'm a learned hussy.
It's fucking funny.
That's what I'm gonna start putting. I'm gonna put that on my business card.
Yeah.
Learned hussy.
Learned hussy.
So, this ended up being a fun
Trained
show.
cougar.
But yeah, so that happens to her, and then so they have this whole thing of Clove falling in love with Sarah from the picture, which was kind of like the Francis Ford Coppola thing with Dracula seeing the picture and being like, "Oh, who's this babe?" You know what I mean? They kind of did that because you know, Sarah had that picture of her that she had gotten for a present or whatever, and Clove got hold of it somehow, and then he fell in love with her just from the picture, like before he met her. So then there was like this whole thing where he was like torn in his allegiances, like between Dracula, who was his master, and wanting to save this woman from her fate. You know what I mean? Because she was like the virginal one, who's, you know, the one that always ends up like that. There's also a pretty fucked up scene where Christopher Lee as Dracula, because I mean the reason this is called literally the only reason this is called Scars of Dracula is because, and Dracula doesn't have any scars, so just
he's putting scars on people.
He's putting on one person in particular, on Clove.
Yeah.
Whenever Clove does something that makes him mad, you think at first that he's whipping him because he has like all of these scars on his back, but what he's actually doing is he's heating up this sword and like pressing it like into the flesh of his back, like branding him essentially. So they do like have a scene of that too, and I was like, man, that is messed up. This is like pretty messed up for a Hammer movie. Like this, so I'm saying this is like kind of lurid, but I was kind of into that. You know what I mean? Because you don't usually see, and I do like the kind of more staid gothic Hammer movies, but I'm just saying seeing this kind of lurid shit like in this context and like Christopher Lee doing this stuff, I was kind of into it.
No, it was cool.
I was kind of into it.
They're just showing you a detailed account of how Dracula controls his thralls and stuff.
Yeah.
What he does, what he tells them.
And I feel like
he's fucking sadistic.
Yeah, and like Christopher Lee was like, and he was like he was a lot more, I'm not saying he wasn't sexual in the other Dracula movies, because he was, but I feel like he was more overtly sexual in this one.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? In the sense of like coming in people's rooms and being like, hey, and they're like, hey, you know what I mean? And him being like, yeah, they're like making out and shit. So,
he's not good to his women either.
Well, no.
He's a dick.
Yeah, he's a real villain in this one. Yeah. Like a real villain. It's, you know, Dracula's obviously a villain. He just like drinks people, but you know what I mean? Like in this one, he just like does like really cruel shit.
Yeah.
Which is crazy. Also, they introduce, as far as I know, this is the first time they introduced this in a movie, but it's like where Dracula can even see when he's sleeping because like his eyes glow red, like even through his eyelids.
He can see you through
his eyelids. Like, and that's what, you know, the special effect is kind of cheesy, but I was like, still cool. Yeah, like I didn't mind it. So yeah, so there was this whole fucking thing about, you know, the brother of the man whore, like coming to look for him, and you know that something bad happened to that dude, but they don't show you what happened to him until like later, because we're sitting there going, well, what the fuck happened to that dude? Like, where did he go? Like, you know, he's probably dead, right? Or he got turned into a vampire, but they didn't. They showed him later, like Simon, the brother. Who was kind of boring, honestly. He was kind of a little bit of a boring character. Like the man horror was a lot more interesting, I thought. But yeah, so Simon ends up in that room that you can't get to, like unless you can walk down walls, like Dracula can. Yeah. He ends up in there, and then he finds his brother like essentially like staked to the wall. Yeah. Like he's dead, obviously.
Yeah, he was inside that
I was like, wow, that's some Texas Chainsaw Massacre shit right there.
He was inside that secret chamber.
Yeah.
Sticking on a spike.
Yeah.
Dracula didn't even throw his ass out. He could have. Just throwing him out the...
I was going to leave him in here as a decoration.
Leave him in here to rot. Yeah.
Which, okay. Yeah. Dracula has some weird, like, decorating aesthetic, I guess. So, like I said, it's like some Leatherface shit. Yeah. You're just going to, like, hang dead bodies up on the wall. Yeah, it's like, I like it. It's just kind of like fucking... That's my whole...
Well, it looked good on camera.
Yeah. Yeah. Just like I said, it's what he probably doesn't mind. He probably doesn't mind like the smell or anything like that. Daniel Rowling said, "Did Tom and Jenny ever see that Nicolas Cage Dracula film Renfield yet? And if so, was it good?" I just watched it the other day. Tom was not home. I think you saw like a little bits and pieces of it, like because he was out at bike night and I was watching it. I really liked it. It's very overtly a comedy, so go into it. And it kind of went in directions I didn't expect a little bit because it's almost kind of like a crime film, but with Dracula and Renfield in it. And it is very overtly funny, but like most of the funniest shit was like the gory shit and the fight scenes. I mean, there was some shit in here where people were just like exploding and they were just like breaking people, like pulling people's arms off and beating people with the arms.
Kind of like Ash and Evil Dead.
Yeah, it was kind of like that. Yeah. Like not quite as funny as that, but it was just kind of along those lines. So if you go into it knowing that it's very overtly a comedy, but it's like pretty gory too, then it'll be good. And like Nicolas Cage is always entertaining to watch because he just always does the most bizarre shit possible. And he's like, it's pretty bizarre in this one, but I was kind of into it. I liked it. But yeah, so now Tom had a problem a little bit with the ending of this. What happens at the end of this movie? Like, obviously they have this whole, after they find the brother dead and everything. So they kind of think that Clove is going to help them out, but then he kind of fucks them over, and it's just this whole thing. And then Sarah is going to be the new bride, so obviously they can't let that happen. So they get up on the roof. Sarah's up there. Now, she has a crucifix on, so he hasn't been able to bite her because, of course, he's just kind of like, oh, my God. But he gets his little bat familiar, who we never find out. I guess it's a familiar.
Yeah.
I suppose.
That's what we decided.
Yeah, because I was just like, well, I thought it was going to be a person, but it's clearly not a person. Like, or another vampire that was, like,
bat. He's got
helping him out. Yeah, it's his trained bat. So, which, handy. So he gets the bat to pull the crucifix off her. Yeah. And you get a really nice shot of her titties with blood all over them.
Getting all scratched up.
Which, again, I was just kind of like, oh, all right.
Hammer,
Yeah, we like that.
We like that. Yeah.
Well, like I said, that was pretty out there even for Hammer. Like, showing, like, super bloody tits like that. Like, all scratched up bloody tits. And I was just kind of like, okay. So we're going to another level here. I see what you're doing. So he gets the bat to pull that off so he can, like, attack her. But then, so Clove comes and he starts stabbing at Dracula because I guess he's decided, no, I'm going to save the woman I love from her picture, even though I don't know her. And then he gets fucking chucked off the cat. He's like, bye. All right. So he just throws him off. And then, so what happens is that Simon, I think then, like the brother, he pulls off the spike and he throws it. Like he's fucking at the Olympics, you know what I mean? And he throws it.
Throws it like a javelin.
He throws it like a javelin, and then he kind of misses, though, because he kind of gets him in the stomach. And Dracula's like, what the fuck? That's like not even my heart or whatever. And so then he lifts up the thing, and he's like, I'm going to stab Simon. And Simon's like, oh shit, this is like the end of it.
He's going to throw it back.
He's going to throw it.
And he's just standing there waiting for the thing to get
I know.
To throw it. It's just fucking
that kills me like in old horror movies. Everyone just kind of stands there and like allows people to kill them.
He's like, don't throw it. He's not even.
I'm like, just can you run or
he's not even
something
taking
or
evasive action. And the girl's just sitting there going, she's not running either.
I've noticed, like I said, up until probably the early 1970s, I feel like, because you see this a lot in Giallo movies too. Like an intruder like breaks in someone's house, and like the woman will literally just like be there backed against the wall screaming while the dude comes out. I'm like, can you run or go get a weapon or something? Yeah. Please be proactive. Yeah. Like go hide at least. Yeah. Like try to jump out the window, something. But nobody ever does. Everybody just said, yes, okay, I guess this is my fate now. Don't kill me. Yeah. Oh, okay, I won't. Bye. Yeah. So there's that kind of thing.
See, the Dracula cocks back that fucking metal rod.
Right.
It's a metal spear to throw it through the dude, and he gets struck by lightning. And he catches on fire, and it kills him. And I was like,
I'm not sure. Yeah. I kind of like it, but Tom was like, yeah, but that kind of negates the whole thing of the hero. Because it's like he would have died if nature hadn't intervened.
Yeah.
Maybe the movie luck. Maybe the movie was trying to say, well, God struck him down.
I don't think so. I think it was pure luck.
Yeah, he was just like, oh, I'm holding up this thing, which is kind of like a lightning rod. So it's like,
so then he caught on fire. For a hero, if they wanted,
he didn't really do anything.
If they wanted to kill him that way, he should have done something to to cause that to happen.
Right, yeah.
Like, you know what I mean?
I get what you're saying.
Like he's cocking back like that, you know, and he goes, "Oh yeah, I got my fucking kite." And he puts his kite on it, and the lightning hits the kite like
some Ben Franklin shit.
Ben Franklin. Or they should have had something.
Yeah, because that really did seem like, well, what if lightning hadn't struck? You'd be in fucking trouble, wouldn't you?
Right.
Like, you'd be dead, and your girlfriend would be a vampire bride.
Right.
So, although she seemed okay.
And there wasn't much lightning going on. It was just lightning out of nowhere. Boom.
Right.
I think in the background they were trying to make it look like there was some lightning, but no. Had it been a real intense electrical storm, maybe you'd be able to buy it a little bit more. Like had lightning struck in a couple of the locations. And then he's trying to maneuver Dracula into a place where the lightning would hit him. Something like that.
Right.
You know, that
yeah, as it was, it really did seem like it relied on, which, like I said, you can't, that happens in real life all the time, but, well, not that you kill a vampire by it being struck by lightning. That doesn't happen ever. But I'm just saying that, you know, lucky shit happens all the time. Or unlucky shit. But in a movie, you can't really, I mean, there has to be, like, some kind of, the main character has to be kind of proactive in the plot. Yeah. And the fact that Simon had spent all this time looking for his brother, and he did all this investigation and everything, and then he gets up there with the final confrontation, and it ends up that...
Pure luck.
Yeah, that's what ended up killing the vampire.
Yeah.
I didn't love it.
Yeah.
I didn't love it.
So, you know, that he...
It looked good. Like, it looked dramatic, because it's like, oh, shit, like a lightning rod, and then he catches on fire and falls up the side of the
castle. There was no
castle.
need for him. There was no need. He could have been killed before.
Yeah, he didn't even need to be there.
Yeah, he
honestly.
didn't need to be there. He could have been killed before.
I mean, the only thing he did was throw that spear, and so the spear happened to be in Dracula's hand, like a lightning rod when the lightning struck. So okay, but other than that, like he didn't really even need to be there.
The girl could have thrown the spear.
Right, that's what I mean. Like you didn't even need that character.
Yeah, you didn't.
In fact, that would have been really cool if she'd have like done it. She'd have been like, "Yeah, fuck you, motherfucker,"
and then he's standing on top of the fucking tip top of the castle, gloating. She waving that spear around in the middle of an electrical storm. That would be a little more believable.
Yeah. Actually, I kind of like that. But they never made the Hammer movies, I guess because they were going back to like the older Gothic tradition. So like the women in them were usually like damsels in distress. They didn't usually do much of anything.
Yeah.
They just kind of like stood there. And,
they were too Victorian to do anything.
Right, that's what I'm saying. They just kind of like stood there and being like, well, I guess we're all going to get killed.
Yeah.
You know?
My corset's too tight.
Yeah. Well, I get that.
They were running around. They were running around in heels, so I can't run too fast. My little heels. Yeah.
And like I said, I get that, like, because corsets do restrict your movement to a great degree because it's coming from someone that wears them all the time.
Yeah.
So I get it. I'm just kind of like, man, I can't fucking move right now. I'm not even gonna try and kill this vampire right now. This is like too much for me. But yeah, they didn't really do that a lot in those movies, and I get it. That's not like of the genre, I guess, but. Yeah, it probably would have been better if she'd... Yeah, we didn't even need that character.
No.
Honestly, she just could have been... Like, why didn't they make Slutty Paul her boyfriend?
Right.
And that kind of would have added some, like, extra...
And she goes to the castle looking
pathos to it, because it's, like, kind of like, well, he was, like, fucking around on her, but she's like, I still love him, and I'm going to save him. And it's like, so she could have saved him.
Yeah.
Because that Simon dude didn't need to be there.
He didn't have to be there.
But they just, they needed a hot chick, and they needed, like, they always have to have this love interest thing. Yeah. And like I said, they kind of hinted at the beginning of the movie that, like, they were going to set it up, like, these two brothers, Paul and Simon, were both gunning for the same woman, and she couldn't decide, because there was a whole thing at the beginning, there's, like, a party, like, it was her birthday party, right? And there was a whole thing where Simon gave her a present, and it was a ring, which was clearly, like, it didn't look like an engagement ring, but it still could have been. And so she put it on, and she's like, oh, it's beautiful. And he's like, oh, I was hoping you'd put it on your other hand. Like, so he was implying that he was trying to ask her to marry him. And she was just kind of like, yeah, I can't do this right now. And then they were kind of talking about Paul, and you kind of thought that maybe she was more into Paul than him. But then they didn't really kind of follow up on that. Because I thought it was going to be this whole, like, love triangle thing, and I think it was supposed to be originally, but I think they just kind of like abandoned it halfway through.
Too much trouble.
Yeah, because as it went on, it became clear that Simon and Sarah were a thing,
right.
And then it was just kind of like, and she's just like, oh, he's your brother, and I'm worried about him. Like they just kind of did that.
Still, out of the two movies, I liked this one better.
I did too. Like because it was just more lurid. It was just more. Christopher Lee was in it a lot more. He did really fucked up shit in it, which I thought was kind of cool because you didn't really see him doing all of that like I said, a lot of the sequels, he wasn't in it that much.
Not in it.
They focused too much on the boring characters.
Yeah, exactly. In this one, you get to see fucking Dracula behind the scenes, unedited, uncensored. What is that motherfucker doing? Being cruel. Being
stabbing motherfuckers and then saying, hey, cut that bitch up and throw her in acid.
Being controlling with women. Stabbing his girlfriends. He was bad.
Getting all the bats to kill all the women in the village. All the women in the church. Yeah. They left all the women in there and they were all fucked up and and I was just like, damn, that is...
Picking up slutty barmaids and enjoying them and then getting sick of them. Yeah.
Something we all aspire to.
Getting sick of them and then kill her too.
Sure.
Don't you? Because she goes, I love you. How dare you? You know, you don't need her. You got me. And he's like, fuck you, bitch. Bam. It kills her. Yeah.
He's not in. Dracula's not.
I don't need no
Dracula's
woman.
Dracula's not a nice
I don't need no woman.
I mean, I guess he doesn't. I mean, I guess it would be lonely after a while being a vampire and whatnot.
The kind of dude that they're showing it, he doesn't give a shit. He's evil. He doesn't care.
Yeah. Well, and we've said this before.
I think he's having around just to make them miserable, and make them miserable and make them obedient.
Yeah.
He's one of those.
Yeah, that's the thing about Christopher Lee's Dracula, which in a way is one of his strengths. I think is that he never comes across like, oh man, I'm so bummed that I'm a vampire. He's just kind of like just a powerful, cruel...
He is real cruel, yeah.
Yeah, dude, and he just doesn't seem like to have existential crises about it or anything like that.
No.
He's just kind of like, yeah, I'm just going to eat all you motherfuckers.
No. He's cool
I don't
with
even care about it.
He's cool about it.
Right.
He's like, oh, yeah. This is what I do. Yeah.
And like I said, I like a lot of different actors' interpretations of it, and there's a lot to be said for giving him some like gravitas and giving him some, like he has some melancholy to him, because it's like, yeah, it would be a bummer like living that long, but I do kind of like Christopher Lee's take on it, where he's just like this ruthless, big fucking, like he seems to enjoy being a vampire, but he doesn't even seem to enjoy it. He just seems like to embody it, Yeah.
Well, when you're meeting him, he'll give you something to drink and he'll be all polite and civilized, but that's not who he is.
Right. He's just like
that's just a veneer.
Yeah, he's just like this cruel, like warlord type character, and I think that's good. That's maybe like closer to the actual character.
What they were talking about, yeah.
Joseph Green says, worst Christopher Lee movie, Howling 2, Your Sister's a Werewolf. Okay, I don't think I can argue too much with that.
Howling 2?
Howling 2, Your Sister's a Werewolf.
That's called?
Yeah.
I didn't know there was a Howling 2.
We started watching it the other day. I saw it a couple of times on cable back in the 80s.
Yeah, I was thinking Wolfen.
No. Wolfen's good, and actually, we should review Wolfen at some point because I want to rewatch it.
The Howling, and then
the first Howling is fantastic,
and the Howling 2, I remember it's unwatchable.
Yeah, that's the thing. Like
right.
I saw it a bunch of times on cable back in the day, and I'm just kind of like, oh okay, it was the '80s. Our standards were lower, so we started watching it. It was probably like 3 years ago because we were still at the old house, and we started watching it, and you were just kind of like, this is like unfucking watchable, and I'm like, yeah, I agree.
Yeah, that was just like Scanners was great, and I remembered liking Scanners 2. Put Scanners 2 on, it's unfucking
and we
watchable.
couldn't finish it.
Couldn't get through that shit like not even 20 minutes.
So people talk about movies being shitty nowadays, like they were shitty back then too. It's just like back then, like I said, your standards were lower. Yeah. I remember watching the entirety of Howling 2, Your Sister's a Werewolf a couple of times, like when it was on cable, and being like, yeah, that was all right. Yeah. But like watching it now, I'm like, what the fuck was I on? Yeah. Like, why did I sit through that?
Yeah, that's the way it was when I was Trancers. I thought first Trancers.
He kept telling me about it.
I remembered it being a fucking cool movie.
Oh, it's so awesome.
Man, that movie fucking sucks. Sucks.
And then we watched it not too long ago.
What the I own it on Blu-ray.
He bought it.
What the fuck?
And I kept looking at him going like, is this the movie you were talking about? This is terrible.
Yeah, terrible. Only the opening scene is okay.
The opening scene is good. I will give it that. But after that, I'm just like, what the fuck is happening right now?
We were teenagers when we saw it. Maybe the opening scene just puts you in the mood for a good movie. And when you're a fucking teenager, you don't realize that the movie sucks.
Were you perhaps high or getting a blowjob at the same time?
No, not getting a blowjob. No.
Or something?
No.
No, that was Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
Yeah, Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
See, I know everything.
I got blown through that
thing. I know
thing.
everything about
I got blown all the way through that thing. Yeah, Cheryl.
He even remembers her name.
Yeah, back in high school.
The girl that blew me in high school while I was watching Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that's
more than once while we were watching it. I fucking took a rest and then she went back to we were making out and stuff.
During Texas Chainsaw Massacre. Was it
got
during
the whole movie and didn't remember? I didn't.
Was it during the end part, which is just an hour of screaming?
Here's the funny thing. I think I only saw like the first 5 minutes of the movie, then I was already.
And then you checked out.
Yeah, I was checking out. I was doing other shit.
That's a shame because Texas Chainsaw Massacre is a great fucking movie.
No, man, we're getting down in her fucking basement rec room. Parents upstairs too.
Oh my god.
Yeah.
And they were just kind of like, oh, they're probably just studying.
Yeah, they're okay.
They knew what was going on.
Probably did. We were quiet.
They knew what was
We
going
were quiet.
on. Well, yeah,
we could hear them coming down. You could hear them walking across the ceiling. So
well, shit, man. If I had a basement rec room and stuff, I'd have put like bells and shit across the fucking.
No, they couldn't sneak up on you.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Yeah. Somebody said, where was it? Somebody said earlier, Bill33 says, Happy Halloween to my favorite movie critic.
Thanks.
Oh, thank you very much. Karen Lee said, I liked Frankenhooker.
Yeah, it was a good movie.
But could not, okay. Good I mean, we reviewed Frankenhooker. I love Frankenhooker.
Yeah, it's good. It's actually pretty well made.
It is. Yeah. And, I kind of like...
It's coherent. It's a coherent movie.
Yeah. You wouldn't think that from the name.
Yeah.
But...
It had some good ideas.
Honestly, I saw it back in the old days, like when it came up back in the 80s. But we watched it again recently, a year or two ago, whenever we did the review.
2 years ago.
And it was much better than I remembered. That doesn't always happen, but it happens more often than not. I feel like when I watch movies that I liked from back then, about 85% of the time I'm like, wow, that's actually much better than I remembered.
Yeah, Basket Case was better than I remembered.
Yeah, like the other 15% of the time I'm like, oh, that is substantially worse than I remembered. Yeah. But usually it's positive. Usually I'm like, oh my god, this is way better than I. Well, and it helps too that a lot of those movies have been remastered, and they look a lot better than because I just saw them like on some shitty small TV or something like that, or on VHS, so they didn't look as good. So when you see them now and they've been like restored and everything like they were supposed to look like in the theater, I'm like, wow, this is actually like really competently shot, and like the cinematography is nice and stuff like that, which like back in the day I was like, wow, this movie looked like it cost $1.98.
Yeah.
But nowadays you see it's like, oh, it looks like an actual movie. What is your guilty pleasure horror movie? Ooh, guilty pleasure.
I don't have a sensations of guilt.
Yeah, I'm not really guilty about anything. But guilty pleasure, I'm trying to think of like a movie that a lot of people don't like that I really like. The only thing, I don't know why this came into my mind, and I haven't seen it in a while, so please take this with a grain of salt. A lot of people hated the Blair Witch sequel, Blair Witch 2: Book of Shadows. And I saw it, and I was like, that was pretty fucking good. I haven't seen it in a long time, though, so it might suck. I'm not really sure. But I remember seeing it like when it came out and really liking it.
People don't like Alien versus Predator 2, but I like that movie.
Yeah, I liked that.
Yeah, I thought it was cool.
I'm pretty, look, I love horror, and I'm pretty open to whatever. So it's like, I'm pretty forgiving, too, because I've seen, like I said, I'm a big MST3K fan, so I have seen the worst of the worst. Like, just terrible, terrible movies that were made on, like, a nothing but, like, for, like, $1. And even the kind of worst, like, people that talk about, oh, it's the worst movie ever and blah-de-blah, not even close. Not even close.
Yeah, not close. They'll say Halloween 3 was bad. I loved Halloween 3.
And I feel like that's a movie that, thankfully, has gotten a reassessment.
Yeah.
Because when that came out, people were really mad. Where's Michael Myers? And why is this?
I never saw 1 or 2. I just saw 3.
But it's like nowadays, it's just kind of like nowadays, like everybody is just kind of like, what? That's a fucking good movie. Like, yeah, it didn't have Michael, but that's okay. Didn't need to have Michael Myers in it. We got enough movies with Michael Myers in it.
Yeah, it's just in the universe, but it's not about that. Yeah.
Well, and I like that Exorcist 3 also got a reassessment, because that is an awesome fucking movie.
Yeah.
Exorcist 3 is an awesome movie. Exorcist 2, on the other hand, is kind of shitty.
There's something kind of good about it, though, in a weird way.
It has its moments. It has its moments.
Yeah, but what's his
We
name?
did review that,
What's
but...
his name? Fucking Richard Burton.
Yeah.
Richard Burton's fucking drunk ass carrying the movie. Fucking... Richard Burton was a trip, man.
He was,
You could tell he was drinking on set.
Yeah.
That was his style. He just looked loaded.
Well, he was probably, at some point, they were just kind of like, if he showed up sober, they were just like, what's the matter with you?
Yeah.
They weren't used to, like, seeing
we hired you because you look like a drunk, man. Come on. And he was a really good actor.
He was.
It's
yeah.
really good, yeah. You can tell he was fucking drunk, man. 3 sheets to the fucking wind.
Camp Guy says, Evil Dead 1 and 2. My wife and I won't even watch this anymore. We getting too old. Aw, that's a shame.
No, they're good.
I love Evil Dead 1 and 2. Honestly, I probably like Evil Dead 2 better than... Well, I don't know. It's hard to... I like them both the same. They're essentially the same movie, but one is like a higher budget.
See the Japanese version. What was it? Muscle Man...
Well, no. Bodybuilder, Muscle... What the fuck is the name of that thing?
Bodybuilder, Muscle
Bodybuilder in Hell.
Yeah.
Right? Something like that.
Yeah. It's the Japanese Evil Dead.
And it's from the 90s, right? Like, or early 90s.
Yeah.
And it was made for, like, a nothing budget.
Yeah.
Like, and obviously...
It homages Evil Dead 1 a lot.
It's like the Japanese... Well, I think the alternate title is the Japanese Evil Dead. But like I said, it was made a long time ago.
Yeah.
And it's super fun. Like, it's on Shudder, I think.
It's a trip.
And it might be on Tubi as well. But yeah, that was super fun. So, Danny Rowling said Blair Witch 2 is the best one. Yeah, I liked that it went like metafiction. I kind of liked that idea. Talk about Pumpkinhead is good. Yeah, I love Pumpkinhead.
Pumpkinhead 2 sucked though.
Yeah, that one wasn't great.
Sucked.
But the first one was really good. I really liked the whole idea of the revenge demon. You could go to the village witch and be like, hey, this person fucked me over. Like, bring up Pumpkinhead and have him go fuck him up. That's like a cool idea.
What was funny though is that like this weird premise where in the mountains of California, you're going back into time. You end up in fucking...
Yeah, it's like, when did I suddenly end up in like Grapes of Wrath?
You're now in 1920 when you go up to the mountains of California.
Yeah.
All these poor people wearing coveralls and shacks.
Yeah, it looked like the fucking
with old
Ozarks or something.
1920s cars. Yeah, none of that shit like that hadn't existed in a long, long time at that time. But they were just trying to make it feel like you were going back in time with those people. But it was funny, they were still in California.
Well, the thing about it is that, we have to shoot it in California because of the budget. It's like, I'm sure they probably wanted to shoot it, like I said, in the middle of the fucking, Ozarks or something. But it's like they couldn't afford to, so it's like, we're just going to pretend that this is like some super backwoods kind of shit, but like in the middle of California.
Right. Which the only places that would be like that is where the damn inbred family is up there in the fucking, what was that, in the... shit.
In like the Appalachians,
in the
or
Appalachians,
something?
up in the Appalachian Mountains. That's the only place where
where
you'd ever have a chance to see anything.
That's
like that.
Kind of where I pretend that Pumpkinhead is.
And they don't look like that anymore. They big old Jinko fucking rave jeans and blue hair and meth. That's what they look like.
Well, no, that's Lake County.
Lake County. Too.
That's where
here.
That's where we live.
Yeah, but they look like that there too.
I know.
Yeah. Yeah, rednecks here. A lot of them don't look like. I'm not using that as an ethnic slur. We're of redneck blood, but fucking.
I grew up in a trailer park in Daytona Beach. For Christ's sake, you can't get much more redneck than that.
Right. It's they're not all these country people, where they look like listening to country western music. And shit.
I mean, some of them
some
are,
of them do,
to be fair, but
a lot of them are just look like they came from a rave in 1998.
Yeah, there's
out of date 1998
they're
rave
a little behind
clothes. Fucking green hair, bad piercings, and their hair hasn't been dyed in weeks.
Well, I kind of feel like the 90s is has made a comeback.
Made a comeback here,
which is
I don't think it ever left. They just stayed like that.
Unfortunate.
Yeah,
because I fucking hated the 90s. But yeah. Well, I hated a lot of aspects of I hated a lot of aspects of the 90s. Like I said, I hated that whole the 90s decade to me seemed like the decade of the edgelord, and I was just kind of like, I hated that fucking shit.
Yeah.
Look how fucking crazy we are. We're so crazy.
Yeah. What's funny? What's funny?
Whatever.
We'll go to the mall.
It's so try hard.
Yeah, we'll go to the mall and we'll see them like that in those 90s clothes, but they're just newer versions of the 90s clothes. But then they're updated, like some of them are gender non-binary.
Yeah, they're like 16 or something.
They're 16-year-old gender non-binary lesbian couple in 1990s rave clothes.
It's
with
crazy.
Fucking bad
in
hair.
Lake County.
In Lake County,
in Central Florida, in the middle of it's a rural.
Rural as fuck. It's
like farms and shit.
Fucking super funny. Yeah.
It's super weird. I mean, it's kind of cool, but it's also kind of weird because it's not
just
what
a
you
weird
would expect.
mixture of fucking shit.
It is a real weird, and it's funny too because because we're kind of like old, but also we like a lot of protein and we like a good bargain.
Yeah.
We also go to the buffet a lot, like on the weekends.
Chinese buffet.
The Chinese buffet.
Yeah. Get some shrimp and shit.
It's funny when you go in there because it's like probably 90% of the people in there are exactly what you would expect, like just these dumpy, kind of backwoods, not backwoods, but they're like, you know what I mean, like kind of just dumpy white.
Well, a lot of them fucking out of those dumpy retirees, a lot of them are from up north, very overweight northerners and stuff. Because I'll hear Yankee accents and stuff. Because there's retirement villages around here.
Yeah, and not too far from where the buffet is, there's like a whole bunch of like mobile home parks.
Yeah.
But then there's like really nice neighborhoods too, like really nice like gated communities. But then there's like all these mobile home
parks. It's a mixture. You'll have fucking real well-to-do and poor right next to each other.
Yeah, and they're all going and getting some fucking all-you-can-eat Chinese food.
But I was in there getting some ice cream fucking at the Chinese buffet, and they had a dude. This he's probably about 60. Mid-60s, late 60s, and he was just straight up New Yorker, little New York guy, just fish out of water. He's like, what? You know, just you could tell he was just very out of place,
But
they the big, just the mannerisms and the accent and the clothing. Yeah, I don't know. Maybe he hadn't been here long.
Yeah, probably not, because a lot of them become kind of...
They just move here, and it's just like, he's like, whoa, where am I, you know?
Because, I mean, a lot of the people in there, like I said, are just these kind of, like, people that... Kind of like people that I grew up with in Daytona. These just kind of, like, big, dumpy white people that were just kind of like, hey, let's go to Cracker Barrel. Yeah. You know, it's that kind of shit.
Yeah, you drive around, you see a lot of old IROCs and Trans Ams.
Yeah.
And fucking, IROCs and Trans Ams, IROC Z. Fucking,
it's what it's a little bit.
They'll have a fucking Trans Am, and that bitch will be brought back to almost like factory new.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Danny Rolling says the 1987 canon film Hansel and Gretel, starring David Warner and Cloris Leachman, is on the same level as The Witches 1990. Pretty dark for a kids film. I don't think I've ever seen that, and honestly, I'm gonna have to see that now because that sounds. I've heard of it, but I've never seen it. That sounds like pretty fucking amazing. John Robertson said, if I could, I would bring back Christopher Lee, Peter Cushing, and Vincent Price and have them play vampires in a modern vampire movie with special effects and gothic ambiance. I would love that. I mean...
Sebastian's asking for fucking...
Count Yorga?
Count Yorga.
Yeah, I've been wanting to do... Like, we should do... Because I think there was 2 Count Yorga movies, right? Yeah. We should probably do both of them.
Yeah, I remember seeing it. It's been a long time since I've seen that one. That was an American movie, wasn't it? Count Yorga?
Now I can't remember.
Okay.
Maybe that'll be the next one that we do. Because I think it's available somewhere. I think I just saw it on Tubi or someplace. Like, because I was thinking about doing it. I think I put it in the poll a couple times, but it never won. Danny Rolling said 90s people are more tolerable than modern hipsters, in my opinion. I guess it depends. But, you know.
Some of that shit's pretty dated, man.
It is. But, you know, whatever.
Yeah.
If that's what they want to look like, then I'm just not going to...
You're like, Jinkos went out, man, a long time
I'm not
ago.
going to get concerned about it.
I remember when Jinkos were new.
Yeah, I do too.
And, man, the South was filled with... I was living in Mississippi at the time. The South was filled with cute Southern rave-looking girls with belly rings and tongue rings and shit.
Oh, that was very big.
Yeah. And they were hot. Slutty, too. It was just a good thing about them.
Sounds
that was another time, though.
He loves the sluts.
Oh yeah. And it was new. That
Right.
wasn't an old look.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's kind of like the mullet.
Yeah.
That haircut. It's not a redneck haircut.
Well, it didn't start out like that.
Rednecks got a hold of that. They saw that shit in new wave
and then they
music
ruined
videos.
it.
And then they stayed with it forever. They saw that. They saw that in fucking new wave videos, man. Probably like Kajagoogoo or something.
Yeah.
Video. They're like, man, that's a stylish haircut.
Or even some members of Duran Duran had mullets back in the day.
Yeah.
John Taylor probably more than the other.
Yeah,
Although, no, I think Andy Taylor had the most egregious mullet.
And it wasn't called a mullet back then. It was just hair.
Yeah, it was just hair.
Just hair.
And honestly, like a lot, like what you would consider a mullet nowadays, like back in the early 80s, that was like a very new wave.
It was new wave, yeah.
Yeah, like a lot of new wave bands had that hair.
Yeah.
And like nowadays you look at it and go like, holy shit, that's a mullet.
Yeah, it's redneck as fuck, yeah.
I don't think they called it a mullet until like way later.
Yeah, it was much later.
Like after like I said, like all the kind of rednecks had adopted that hair for whatever reason.
Get a hold of something, they'll keep it for decades, man.
Yeah, they're like, why change it?
Yeah. That's a good one, man. We're gonna keep
It
that.
looks good like that.
Yeah.
Danny Rolling said a lot of Latins rock mullets.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, John Gora said, what's the one with Caroline Munro about the vampire hunter? Oh. I know what one you're talking about.
Yeah,
Oh,
she's
shit.
great.
Yeah, Tom loves Caroline
Yeah.
Munro.
She's a warrior of love.
She is.
Yes.
Yeah.
Man, in the Sinbad movies when I was a kid, man, fucking my babysitter Kimmy took me to see that shit, man. Fucking, I was just surrounded by these beautiful women and fucking beautiful teenage girls, and
Then
fucking
Caroline Munro is
was
on the
all
screen.
just blending in together, man.
Oh my God,
was
Tom
about-
couldn't take it. It
Yeah.
was overwhelming.
I was about 7. Yeah, yeah. And these beautiful older women, 12. You know, they're like 12, and I'm just
Captain
right there.
Kronos, that's what it was.
Yeah,
Jeffy
Captain
Arndt
Kronos.
says.
Okay.
Captain Kronos Vampire Hunter.
Yeah.
That's another one we need to do. But yeah, fucking mullets, man. You have a mullet wig, do you not?
Yeah, somewhere.
do.
I haven't rocked the wigs in a while.
Yeah, you have it.
Playing wig games. Well, we're doing reviews, so it's not time.
Maybe on sidetracks we can do it.
Yeah.
All right, so I guess we're gonna wrap it up. We've been on
Yeah.
for hour and 40 minutes,
Oh yeah, it's a long one.
and I think well, was having fun like talking about these, but
Yeah.
you know, I love Christopher Lee and I love the Hammer movies, so we were just talking about these.
It's 9
So,
o'clock though.
Okay. All right. So, thanks everybody for dropping by. Thanks for super chats. On the Wednesday show, we're going to be doing. We're going to be talking about Michael Jackson.
Yeah, it's gonna be a good show.
Yeah, that should be entertaining. Like about, we're not going to
The
talk
mysteries of Michael.
Yeah,
Jackson.
like not his whole life or anything like that. We're
Yeah.
going to be talking about like the controversies, like
Yeah.
about the abuse.
Was he
and-
doing it? Yeah.
and but maybe a little bit about like the controversy surrounding his death and stuff.
Yeah.
But I will say that we watched the HBO documentary. What's it called? Leaving Neverland.
Yeah.
It's about 4 hours. We watched that last night, and I don't know, man. Like I was kind of like on the fence prior to this, but then like I started reading stuff, and then like we watched that documentary last night, and I'm like, ooh, I don't know how much on the fence I am anymore.
Yeah. I made my mind up.
We'll see how that
That
goes.
shit made too much sense. I was like, oh yeah.
Yeah, and I was
Yeah.
just kind of and I was just kind of
Typical male behavior. Yeah.
Well, yeah, you should
He
know.
just the target of his desire was different.
Yeah.
But no. He was,
I mean, yeah.
Yeah.
And the thing about it, like Camp Guy said, I love Michael Jackson, like Off the Wall, one of the best albums in history. Yeah, and the thing about it is that I don't, like, when I look into, because look, like, a lot of musicians or writers or stuff like that I really like were horrible people. And that doesn't diminish the, the influence of their work or, how much I enjoy their work or something like that. Like, it maybe taints it a little bit because I do kind of think about it. But I don't know. In a lot of ways, I think you have to separate the person from the artist.
Yeah.
Because, like, somebody that is a brilliant writer or a brilliant musician or a brilliant artist or something like that can still be, like, a shit human being.
yeah. Although I don't think Michael Jackson was a bad person or a shit human being. I think he had serious problems.
Yeah, and we'll kind of get into
We'll
that.
get into it, yeah.
Because it's just kind of like, I don't think...
He didn't
and-
see himself as a bad person.
Like I said, well, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, a lot of bad people
Right, yeah,
don't,
don't,
though.
right, yeah.
Like, yeah. So we might talk about that, too, because that's, like, a fascinating... I'm, like, fascinated by that kind of shit. So we
Yeah.
might get into that. But, yeah. And so now they're all doing fucking...
What is that?
Danny Rolling is doing the hee-hee.
Yeah.
Like,
Ha, hoo, hoo.
like grabbing the...
Yeah.
Grabbing the...
He was a trip,
trash.
man. Fucking grew up watching that dude. I kind of put him, I consider him to be, I kind of put him in a way like on par with Elvis, kind of. Where
Elvis was kind of a shitty person,
Well-
too. Like, a little bit.
Well, that's not what I meant. What I meant is that I wasn't a big fan of their music,
Right.
but they're very interesting
Yeah.
guys. They,
Yeah.
they're kind of like huge stars, and they're interesting in how that affects the mind. And what strange lives that they lived. When you're that famous, you're basically a prisoner. You can't really go anywhere.
That's what I mean. You can't really have a
can't do
normal
anything,
life, which
right.
really can't be, like, mentally healthy.
No.
And I kind of feel like that manifests in a lot of really fascinating ways.
Yeah.
Which is not always fun for like the people around them, obviously.
And
But
Jackson had some fucking secrets, man. And but no, listening to the testimony, and testimony is not evidence in a court of law, but it's testimony. It can persuade you. I was persuaded. No, when I heard the stories, and they're stories that took place over decades, then yeah, okay, it makes a lot more sense.
it sounded pretty plausible.
It makes a lot more sense when you hear the stories of people that were up close and personal with him, of what he was like. And so my curiosity was satisfied. I made it my mind.
Yeah.
We'll talk about it on the show.
Like I said, I don't really know if I have because I wasn't there, but I'm just saying that
99%.
Yeah, I kind of got like a little pushed off the fence.
It makes a lot more sense. Their story makes a lot more sense than the story you're seeing when you're looking at Michael Jackson at Neverland. And where the fuck's his girlfriend? He's 33 years old, man. That place should be dripping with fucking single women and porn stars and actresses and shit.
That's what I'm saying. See, if
where are the
Tom
women?
was that rich and famous,
and
had a compound like that,
yeah,
he would have the whole place. There would be naked women on every available surface.
Yeah. It would be like,
I know you.
It would look like a palace. First of all, they'd be partying all the time. I'm not having a fucking train and a Ferris wheel and shit out in the front yard, man.
What about I hang out with kids for? That's weird.
About, man? Yeah.
Kids are kind of like...
Get them the fuck out of here, man. I'd have a fucking...
They can't drink or anything.
I'd have helicopter landing pads and fucking jets and shit and fucking, try to buy a flying saucer. I'd do anything. But I wouldn't have...
I could see you trying to buy
an amusement park.
No. I might have an amusement park, but not for kids. I'd have an adult amusement park.
Yeah, it would have a real AMC theater that could fit.
Yeah, I would do that.
100 people.
I would do that.
I'd have a McDonald's and a Pizza Hut.
I don't want a Pizza Hut.
I would just have something. Yeah, I'd have Pizza Hut. Fuck it. Or a Papa John's. I'd have a Papa John's. And it wouldn't be staffed all the time. It's just that I mean.
I think I'd rather.
If
have
I wanted to go get some
bread
pizza, I'd get a call and give me a pizza ready. And I'd go down to fucking Papa John's. I have my own parking lot out there.
You don't even nobody. It's
like I'm in town,
there.
but it's my personal town. Yeah.
Yeah, Tom would have a whole town.
But you could have your friends over, and they would be like you were hanging out in town.
Yeah. Well, that's kind of what this place was like. It had kind of hotel rooms and shit like that too, but where people could stay.
Could stay, yeah.
But I get it. But for kids, it was awesome. But I'm not averse to I love amusement parks. I'm just saying that I would make it more like an adult amusement park. Yeah. I would have a huge big bar and all of nightclubs and then also
pools.
Also an amusement I'd have roller coasters and shit. I'm not saying that.
It looked like Miami. I'd have all these pools, multi-layered pools,
right?
And
yeah. See, that would
fountains
be awesome.
And shit. And
that'd be awesome.
Yeah, they'd fucking hire fucking erotic entertainers to come over and fucking have them hang out.
Yeah, he's just gonna
have whole parties and shit.
Strippers up on the stripper poles.
Yeah.
That's what Tom.
Lesbo acts and shit going on. Spotlights on him.
So that's why Tom has always been a little suspicious of Michael Jackson because he didn't have any of that.
He didn't have any of that. And a 30-year-old man of that much wealth and fame would definitely have that.
I mean, yeah.
Because they do.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
Yeah.
If you had all that money and no one to tell you not to do that, then you would do that.
Because he wasn't married. It'd have been a bachelor pad.
Yeah. But, all right, we'll get into that on Wednesday. We don't want to waste it all. Yeah. But yeah, so thanks for dropping by. Listen to us talk about Hammer movies. Hopefully you can come by on Wednesday. Listen to us talk about Michael Jackson. And so we will see you guys then. Have a good day tomorrow. Good night.